What does success mean to you? Reaching a certain status, being famous, making a lot of money, or all of the above? But how much is enough for you to feel success? Somehow, as we reach each milestone, we keep wanting more, and we get to a point when wondering what is really considered success and why do we care so much about it? You're listening to Dear Workplace, and today we're about to dive into all about what it means to be successful and curiously redefine what it means to live successfully.
I literally go hit number one as soon as I wake up. And then now I have a succession thing. By the time I get to number 4, I'm like, yo, this was a very successful day.
I graduated from a great university with almost a 4.0 and couldn't get a job. So that was like the first kind of like dent in that wisdom of hard work always pays off. I was like, wait a second, like it's not happening.
Why am I making art and what kind of art am I supposed to be making? Dissecting everything and understanding like, why is it successful and why does that matter?
You don't need to be hustling just for the sake of it. You don't need to want to be successful so you appear on the front of a magazine. If you do because you did something of value, then it's amazing, but it shouldn't be the end goal.
Fears of failure. Fears of failure to like the parents, or fears of failure to like school if you were an A student. All those things like condition people to want guaranteed success, so to speak, versus like doing the right thing that like will actually help the business or whatever initiative you're working on take off.
10 to 20 years from now, I want to be being paid to be myself. You know, I want to be able to show up and not feel like I have to try or be somebody else. And I think that is a bigger thing that I'm more focused on, because if I do that, then everything else kind of take care of itself.
Hi, welcome to Dear Workplace by InnovatorsBox, where I study trends, changes, and challenges with people at work. I'm your host, Monica Kang, and today I want to learn more about success. Growing up, both Asian and American, being successful was important in every way I was familiar with. You want to be and get good at everything. Grades, jobs, schools, friends, and even in marriage. But what is considered good or good enough? I found these 5 lessons from 5 friends to be a powerful way of how I rethink my relationship and perceptions on success as I continue to look at the marathon in life. Jeff Harry first reminds us that maybe we're starting this all off from the wrong place and the wrong question. Think about legacy. Is being famous really your end goal?
I don't know if my legacy is important to me. I think there's something about there's some part of the ego that actually gets in the way of you actually creating a legacy. When I think of like MLK or, Malcolm X or they were just doing themselves, right? They weren't like, Che Guevara. They weren't trying to be like, well, I want to be quoted. I want a whole day considered for me later on in life. They didn't care about that. They were doing the work for the work. That's the part that I think is really important. And we have to ask ourselves, like, why are we doing what we're doing? Are we doing it for the fame and the adulation? Because that comes and goes. I know famous people. I know rich people. I know like super successful influencers. Not that happy.
Jeff Harry is a workplace play consultant and an international play speaker at Rediscover Your Play in California. I love how he describes his work on his LinkedIn profile. While we spend most of our time pretending to be important, serious grown-ups, it's when we let go of the facade and just play that the real magic happens. This is how he helps organizations like Google, Microsoft, and Southwest Airlines rethink play in the workplace. And in that journey, rethinking how he defines success and what it means to create impact was important for Jeff to be who he is today. It wasn't all rosy from the beginning.
Let me talk about when I was paying Paige $150 a week to work this part-time play job, right? And your parents are like, when are you going to get a real job? Like, why do you keep doing this part-time ridiculous job? It was like that for at least like a year, 2 years, where I was being paid maybe 5 hours of admin a week, and I was working 40 hours of admin a week. It was a real tough time. So, I don't want to paint this rosy picture that's just all of a sudden happens, right? But I think something that people should consider, especially if they're first starting off with creating their own side hustle or something like that, is just experiment and follow that curiosity. Because, as my business mentor, Stephen Worley, would always ask me, don't you want to get paid to be yourself? And I was like, yes, that's exactly what I want to do. That's all I want to do. I just want to be paid to be me. So why wouldn't I explore that?
Yes, being paid to be myself. Isn't that wonderful? As simple as that sounds, it's only possible by taking care of the fundamentals, getting to really know yourself. And if he didn't stay so focused on his why, the way he did, he may not be who he is today as the play expert we know. Jeff reminds us how having a clear why helps you see growth in the long run. So lesson number 1 is start with your why to succeed, not by what other people think it should be. This is incredibly important as we think about how we show up each day. Really matters. Coonoor also shares how knowing your true selves and knowing why you want to work hard in something helps you rethink about success too.
My life between college and in my first couple of job experiences, all of us are sold this idea that hard work always pays off. And it's a lovely sentiment. It's a great thing to tell like a teenager to get them to work hard. I'm glad that I believed that when I was a teenager. But I think once I got into the workforce, I had this huge, huge disappointment of wow, yes, high school, yes, college, yes, graduate school, at least from my perspective, were meritocracies, right? There are places where, yes, you work hard and you'll be rewarded and you'll be respected. And then the moment I got into the workforce, it was just wow, that is not the way the workforce works. It is not a meritocracy. The things that I, even as a woman of color growing up, were rewarded for doing things like being a leader, speaking out, standing up for things. The second I got in the workforce, not rewarded for those things.
Coonoor Behal is the founder and CEO of MindTouch, a creative consultancy that helps businesses and organizations get better results with creative methods. She works with various organizations to help rethink how teams solve complex problems with design thinking and improv, and realized how important reframing is and how we study milestones, impact, and success. In defining success as a woman of color, she knew how important it was to stand up for herself, especially if society was not going to step up.
That was the first kind of dent in that wisdom of hard work always pays off. You don't need to work hard at everything just for the sake of working hard or just for the sake of this false belief of input-output. You can make decisions and work hard at what you love or what you believe in. You don't have to work hard at everything, And I think as a recovering perfectionist, right? And I'm glad I learned that in my early 20s. So I think it's just the accumulation of life experiences, and those life experiences, each one taught me many things that I value, right? I learned what my limits were. I learned what I was willing to put up with, what I wasn't willing to put up with. And I think having that clarity just helped me be even more, I'll use your word, courageous, every step of the way.
Yes, it's liberating to know that you don't have to be a perfectionist to provide quality and live successfully in all that you do. Lesson 2 is you don't have to be perfect at everything to live a happy, successful life. As she shares in her book, I Quit, we have to stop seeing acts like quitting to be the end of the story. Quitting, when it's for the right reason, can be a healthy decision. And Ariana would agree. She too finds her society's celebration of hustling and fake it till you make it to be a very dangerous way of defining how we live our best selves, no matter where we are.
Fake it till you make it. Those sorts of things, and hustle, and you always have to be in the move and keep yourself super busy. I think that's really stupid advice, to be honest. You don't need to be hustling, hustling, hustling just for the sake of it. You don't need to want to be successful. So you appear on the front of a magazine. If you do because you did something of value, then it's amazing, but it shouldn't be the end goal. And also this fake it till you make it, I would say learn it until you can make it. There's like this whole culture about just not learning, just, turn your camera on and start, recording yourself talking about politics, even if you never read about it. And I don't think that's a very good idea. There's a very thin line between being sure about who you are and having confidence and just trying to find shortcuts for everything.
Ariana Gomez is the founder and CEO of a technology for impact in Mexico. She turns every individual and organization into an agent of peace, prosperity, and positive and social and environmental impact. And as a company that has a unique focus on strategy, sustainability, and long-term goals, she recognized how important it was that she measured growth and success internally, not just externally. Her visit to Ethiopia in her early years is when she first realized how much she had a misperception of what she thought being successful or impactful can mean. So yes, you don't have to have a lot of money or be working at the United Nations to create global impact. Lesson 3 is to live impactfully, you need to listen, learn, and listen again.
I traveled to Ethiopia before I started my bachelor's degree, and the war between Ethiopia and Eritrea was just finishing. And I remember I arrived in Addis and I thought, like, here I am. I'm here to save Ethiopia, right? Because I was so young and so stupid. I really thought I was going to make a difference. Like I was going to tell them and to teach them something about peace, or I don't know. I was just really like full of herself adolescent. And I arrived and then I learned the hard way. First, I didn't know anything. It was just about learning for me. I didn't give them anything other than my volunteering time. And that was a great lesson of humility and being humble and just open to learn and just shut yourself up and learn from others, because people who suffer, they are the experts when it comes to their problems and their sufferings. And then years later, I went back working for the UN in some projects. And I always saw that, a lot of people from the UN would fly in their helicopters, stay at the best hotels, having around for maybe one day or a couple of hours, and then going back to Geneva or to New York saying, okay, these guys need toilets or new schools. And I was like, no, you didn't talk to the people. They know what they need because they suffer that every day. So I think it gives you clarity to learn that you need to have bigger ears than you have a mouth when it comes to talking a lot and wanting to tell people the way forward. If I want to really make a difference, I need to listen a lot, learn a lot, and work a lot on myself.
Ariana's story really got me thinking. How often do we assume things without listening or taking the time to learn how it came to be? Taking the time to learn is an investment, but a worthy one, as it would give us clarity to understand who we are, but also how we may have developed fear of certain things. Kevn Felix Chan shares how acknowledging his fear about success was the very source that helped him be successful. In other words, lesson number 4 is face your fear and know what is stopping you to be successful.
Fear of failure was holding me back from making decisions. It wasn't even about the how, because we didn't even get there because we were so fear-driven.
Kevn Felix Chan is the co-founder and CEO of Best Delegate, an education company that empowers today's students to become tomorrow's leaders through Model United Nations programs worldwide. Today, over 5,000 students go through their programs each year. That's a lot of students who have been impacted for the past 10 years. But as Kevin shared a moment ago, to continue to grow, Kevin and his leadership first had to acknowledge what was holding them back.
What made that change was really taking a step back and digging deeper into why do I have these fears and where does it come from? The deepest layer is rooted from childhood, fears of disappointment, fears of failure to the parents, or fears of failure to school if you were an A student. all those things condition people to want to do the right thing that will be like guaranteed success, so to speak, versus like doing the right thing that like will actually help the business or whatever initiative you're working on take off. Maybe it's not the right thing, it's the safe thing, doing the safe thing that will like guarantee results.
So what helped you build better resilience?
I personally did a lot of that through breathwork, meditation, and just digging deeper inside, and thinking back, reflecting back to different experiences and being cognizant of it and talking about it with my business partner and realizing that like we both shared that similar fear. And so when that fear voice creeps up, to be able to call each other out on it and to identify that, hey, we are right now approaching this problem from a fear-driven perspective rather than from, that abundance mindset.
This is why I loved what Marcus also shared about how we should proactively reframe how we define success. It's not tomorrow. It starts from today.
Is that offering up the value of perspective. And if you give yourself the opportunity to be able to have perspective in your life of when times were just horrible, and you thought that you would never be where you are, you would never live where you're living, you would never drive the car you're driving, you don't know how you ended up with a checking account and a savings account and now a new business account. Like there were moments where you thought that all of these things were going to be dreams, and you now have these things. Like look back on that and be like, just remember, like you are being very petty if you think that you're not winning right now.
Marcus Bullock is the founder and CEO of Flickshaw, an app that helps inmates stay connected with their loved ones by being able to send postcard messages. We'll learn more about his journey in our next Curious Monica episode as we study how tech entrepreneurs build their career. But here, I wanted to highlight his thoughtful insight in how we think matters in how we feel. Success, then in other words, is not something that is defined by others, but by our own selves.
Identifying the things that will make me successful the next day by writing them out on my to-do list the day before. And then after I write those things out, I would write a number beside them and prioritize them 1 through 7, making sure that I never exceed 7. But this is the most important thing. If I did these things tomorrow, it would be amazingly successful for me. And I could say tomorrow I had a successful day. Living life as an entrepreneur, most of us struggle with wondering whether or not we were even productive that day, simply because there's no one breathing on our back saying that you must do these things in order to be able to be successful, right? There's no metric that you can use for success outside of your own discernment. But if I'm able to carefully at the end of the day say, you know what, I wish I would have done these things. I would have crushed the day if I would have did these things. I would have said I was even successful if I'd have done these things. Pause, write those things down, write and prioritize them for the next day. Tomorrow, when I wake up, I literally go hit number 1 as soon as I wake up. And then now I have a succession thing. By the time I get to number 4, I'm like, yo, this was a very successful day. Now I'm able to easily push through to get to the next one.
I love this advice. So simple and powerful. If we start our day knowing what we want to focus on, we are more likely to make that come to life. Our mindset influences how we live our day. Lesson number 5 is success is possible when we identify and prioritize it. It's not arbitrary. It's not intangible. It starts today and every single moment in what you do. This humble reminder energized me to know that I'm in control of what I not only define as successful, but also how I make things successful in everything I do. The nuance, as each person shared, matters. So as we zoom out, I ask for you to take a moment to pause and ask yourself how you are defining success today and how that's making you feel. Is it motivating you or is it stressing you out? Knowing your why, your fear, and how you want to prioritize can all liberate from how you define. The choice is yours. Don't focus just on the metrics you see today, but keep the marathon in mind. With that, I look forward to hearing how you wake up each day with a bigger smile. Thanks for joining us today. This is Monica Kang, your host at Dear Workplace. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Next week, we'll continue to dive into different challenges at work, and I'm eager for this one, as it's also something I personally experience a lot, working as a woman.
Hi, I'm Sam, an audio engineer at InnovatorsBox. I hope you're enjoying Dear Workplace. My work in audio production will often have me working alone for long stretches of time just surrounded by technical equipment. This year I decided it was time to brighten things up some, so I branched out and I bought myself a candle. And you know, it really warms the place up. This show is brought together by our awesome podcast team, producer Sarah No, audio engineers Sam Lamert and Ravi Lad, website designer Akriti Pandey, graphic designer Monica Escobar, and Luke Helder on music. And of course, Dear Workplace is hosted and directed by Monica Kang, founder and CEO of InnovatorsBox. To continue the conversation of reimagining the workplace, visit us at innovatorsbox.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share. Would love to hear what you enjoy and what I can convince Monica to talk about in our next episodes. See you next week.
Bring your questions and thoughts, and I'll see you next week.